we need to do something about it because it affects everybody here.
The toxic algae bloom sweeping Florida's southwest coast described as the worst in more than a decade.
The smell is a little rough, so I don't know how long we'll be out here. Seeing it like this is a little sad.
Dead fish litter the shores of Suncoast beaches.
Tonight, team coverage with answers to your questions about red tide. Your Suncoast News starts now.
You're watching ABC 7 News at 5.
Good evening, I'm Jacqueline Matter.
And I'm Scott Dennis. Thanks for being with us tonight. In the last several days, we have heard from many of you at home who want to know more about red tide and its impact here on the Suncoast.
So today we're devoting the resources of ABC 7 to the algae bloom tarnishing our beaches with thousands of dead fish and periodically filling the air with a horrible stench.
For months now, red tide has plagued the counties south of us, but more recently the conditions are affecting people and marine life here on the Suncoast. ABC 7's Adam Cellini shot this video of Siesta Key near the main public beach yesterday afternoon. That video showing the dead fish on the nation's #1 beach and is dominating the conversation on our Facebook page with more than 1,700 comments. And the video has been shared more than 3,200 times. We had crews on the beach all last night and first thing this morning when crews from Sarasota County arrived to start clearing those fish away. Throughout the county, 17 workers are cleaning the beaches. On Siesta Key, 8 employees on 3 vehicles were picking up fish today near Access 7. 8 people from the Sheriff's Office's Work Offender Program cleaning Venice and Casperson beaches today. County officials say 16 tons of fish have been removed today from just Siesta Beach.
Along with Facebook comments, we're also getting a lot of calls and emails from people asking questions about the red tide conditions here on the Suncoast. Hundreds of people wanting to know what's causing the algae bloom and why it's so bad this year, and concerned about the impacts it may be having on the Suncoast. Over the next hour, we will try and answer some of your questions. We'll have information on how the red tide is affecting the businesses and people who rely on the beach for their livelihoods, how this algae bloom is affecting marine life and animals, and what you can do to help, where are the health dangers and concerns, and much more.
One of the biggest questions we get, where is the red tide right now? With conditions constantly changing, pinpointing where red tide is the strongest is extremely difficult. Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission monitors the algae bloom and releases 2 reports a week, a midweek report on Wednesdays and then a full report on Fridays. Here's the most recent status map released by the FWC yesterday. Red dots show high concentrations of red tide, orange is medium, and yellow is low. As you can see, Manatee County is doing okay right now, but high concentrations were reported in North Sarasota County south to Collier County. And from Lido Keys south, beachgoers are reporting respiratory irritation. Again, FWC will release a full report tomorrow with updated information. And while cleanup efforts are underway to remove dead fish from beaches around the Suncoast, local anglers in the area are working around red tide and dead fish to get their daily catch.
That's right. It poses a challenge surveying the waters while winds can push that red tide to different areas. ABC 7's Dwayne Lindo went out fishing with the local charter captain today. He joins us now live from Sarasota with some of the challenges those fishermen are facing. Dwayne.
Well, guys, one of the main things that Captain Johnny Walker wanted to get out in the open was the misconception that red tide is everywhere. He says much of that red tide we're having seems to be right around the edge of the coast, but if you go out a few miles, it really isn't out there. For the last few days, he's been fishing in North Sarasota Bay, where he says red tide has been non-existent. And keep in mind, he's been fishing in these waters for over 40 years, so he's seen red tide at its worst. He mentioned that just because you see dead fish in one spot doesn't necessarily mean that red tide is there. It just means that those fish may have been blown from somewhere else. So you may see anglers close to an area where there are a few dead fish. He says more importantly, much of that fish kill you see in the water may not be a direct cause of red tide.
When the red tide starts killing fish and the fish drop to the bottom and they deplete the oxygen in the water because they're decomposing, which uses up oxygen, and that also can kill fish and organisms in the water also.
Now, coming up later at 6, we hear more from Captain Johnny Walker, also a person who owns a business that says this misconception is killing the place where he works. Scott, Jacqueline, back to you.
Dwayne, thank you very much.
Well, it's a nice day on the water where Dwayne is there. Let's get more on our forecast this evening with meteorologist Steve Newman, who's in for Bob tonight.
Well, it's a nice day if you consider a heat index of 101 outside, which has been for most of the afternoon. It's not a bad day. It's Florida in the sunshine, and this is what we experience in the summer months. What we had yesterday is not happening today, which was a lot of clouds in the heart of the state producing locally heavy thunderstorms. You can see the flow is turning more to a southeasterly direction instead of the pump from the tropics coming from the due south. Up in the Panhandle, they're still getting hammered with wave after wave of rain, some local flooding there. And we've had some strong storms in our area as well, especially in Manatee County up along I-75. In fact, we zoom into this area here, you can see from about University Park northward, Lakewood Ranch, and now crossing the Manatee River to the I-75 275 split. It has been raining fairly heavily for the last couple hours, maybe some little ponding of water there, and those storms are bubbling up into Tampa Bay as well, and there are outflow boundaries coming out that could trigger some additional storms. In fact, we take a look at our future radar prediction. It looks like it's got a handle on those storms. Look what happens tonight. There's 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock storms develop right about midnight and then thin out through the overnight hours. So this model did a really good job of the storms we got last night about 9 or 10 o'clock. So I would have high hopes that the same here because it cools things off. And if we do get those storms, the cooling into the 70s will happen earlier than this model is predicting. But right on through the evening until the small hours of the morning, we have a fairly good chance we'll see some showers or thunderstorms across the entire area. And that's our weather.
All right, Steve, thank you. Well, people who live here on the Suncoast year-round are pretty familiar with red tide, but maybe not exactly what causes it. Here's some information from the scientists who study it. So what is red tide? Scientists at the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration have been monitoring and studying this phenomenon for years, and the agency explains it like this. Red tide is a general term for harmful algal blooms. These blooms occur when higher than normal concentrations of algae, simple plants, grow out of control while producing toxic or harmful effects on people, fish, and marine mammals. These harmful algal blooms have been reported in every U.S. coastal state. Not all algal blooms are harmful. Most blooms are actually beneficial because the tiny plants are food for animals in our ocean. But a small percentage of algae, however, produce powerful toxins that can kill fish, shellfish, mammals, and birds, and even cause people to get sick. A little history, the FWC says there have been documented cases of red tide since 1840, but they've only been keeping accurate records since the 1950s.
Well, when red tide conditions are bad, it can make you cough, sneeze, irritate your throat, and make it feel scratchy, and may even make it difficult to breathe for some. Health officials say certain people should avoid the beach altogether when red tide is present. Florida Department of Health advises people with severe or chronic respiratory conditions like emphysema, asthma, or COPD to avoid red tide areas, especially when winds are blowing toxins on or near the shore like today.
It's more of a chemical irritant. So if, much like you would walk in anywhere and breathe something in that's an irritant, it's going to irritate you in your eyes, in your lungs, kind of like smoke. Maybe that's not a great analogy, but that's what comes to mind.
Dr. Stone says he's not aware of any long-lasting health impacts of red tide. Now, there are some things you can do to limit any health problems related to red tide. Mote Marine Lab has this advice. You should limit your outdoor activities like golfing, tennis, or bicycling, or do them away from the barrier islands during these red tide blooms. When driving your car, keep the windows up and turn the AC on. And for people who do not have asthma or any other chronic respiratory problems, over-the-counter antihistamines may relieve any symptoms you may experience. But again, you should always seek medical care if those symptoms worsen. Another frequently asked question we want to answer tonight is, can red tide affect your pets? Well, according to Mote Marine Lab, the answer is yes. If you live close to the beach, you should bring pets inside during a bloom to prevent respiratory irritation. If you're at the beach with your pets, do not let them play with the dead fish or the foam on the beach during or after a red tide outbreak. And if your pet swims in the red tide, wash it off as soon as possible.
Well, we have team coverage of red tide here on the Suncoast, not only in our newscast, but on our website as well. You can find the FWC's Red Tide Weekly Report, as well as what to do if you see a manatee in trouble and much more information. Just head to mysuncoast.com.
Still to come in your Suncoast News tonight, why the family of a man murdered at a Longboat Key resort is now suing the resort and their former security company.
Plus, an update on a lawsuit against Orlando police officers and their response to a 2016 nightclub massacre. Plus, meteorologist Steve Newman will be back with your first alert forecast for the weekend ahead. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Being empowered starts with getting informed, looking closer. 1 in 8 women will be diagnosed with breast cancer in her lifetime. But many of us don't know there are different types of breast cancer with different characteristics. That was me. Learning about the specifics of my diagnosis gave me the confidence to make informed treatment decisions with my doctor. This meant everything to me and my family. So take another look. Ask another question. Learn more at notonetype.org.
Reorganizing a space in your home? Save up to 20% on our beautiful light finishes during the California Closet's Shades of White event. Contact us today for a free design consultation. Visit our showroom or online at californiaclosets.com.
Our nurse, Jennifer, all we did is pick up the phone if I was having a bad day, and the next thing we know, she was here at the door. I can't believe that I would have received any greater care anywhere. From that moment on, everything changed dramatically. And I don't know what we would have done without that.
Did you know that a dirty CPAP system could make you sick? If you knew what could be growing in your mask and hose, it would keep you up at night. Now, SoClean.com has released the world's first automated hands-free CPAP cleaner and sanitizer. With its patented design, SoClean is fast, effective, and hands-free, killing 99.9% of all CPAP germs and bacteria. Try SoClean now through this special TV offer, risk-free for 30 days. Just call 800-604-0398.
The SoClean works, and it's a really effective product, and I couldn't believe how easy it was to use.
SoClean works on all popular CPAP machines and masks, destroying CPAP germs and bacteria without the daily hassle of washing your system by hand. Just place your mask in, close the lid, and walk away. Voila! Sanitized and ready to use. Try SoClean risk-free for 30 days. This is a limited-time offer. Call now,
800-604-0398.
Or visit SoClean.com today.
Designers do it with style.
Tell me what's going on here.
Why, you don't like my hair?
The Mark and Mandy Show. In-depth design ideas.
What is up with the tuck tape here? Let's cover it up.
Amazing beauty and fashion tips.
So Halle Berry has amazing skin. Her secret is coffee grounds.
No.
Delicious recipes.
Today, I'm gonna show you a special dish that is sure to please that special someone in your life.
Watch the Mark and Mandy Show right here on your favorite channel.
Reorganizing a space in your home? Save up to 20% on our beautiful light finishes during the California Closet's Shades of White event. Contact us today for a free design consultation. Visit our showroom or online at californiaclosets.com.
A year after a double murder at a Longboat Key Beach resort, one of the victims' families is filing a lawsuit against the resort and the former security company that worked there. Timothy Hurley was one of 2 workers shot at the Zota Beach resort. His family claims the double murder was preventable and even foreseeable. Today in Orlando, attorneys held a press conference to announce a formal complaint. The family is seeking damages for Hurley's death, suing Zota and Victory Security Company. The attorneys say if both companies simply would have stricter policies and procedures, the tragedy would have been prevented.
I never realized how much we relied on Tim and how much Tim really did for our family until he wasn't there anymore.
The family of the second victim, Kevin Carter, was at that press conference today as well. He has concerns that his partner as a security guard will be blamed for Hurley's death.
A judge is dismissing a lawsuit that claimed Orlando police did not do enough to stop the gunman in the Pulse nightclub massacre. Judge Paul Byron said the claims were not specific enough to allow the city and police officers to make an adequate defense, but he did give survivors and family members 2 weeks to file another complaint. That lawsuit named just 1 police officer who was working security off duty at the nightclub. 38 other officers are referred to as John Doe. Gunman Omar Mateen opened fire inside the gay nightclub in June 2016, killing 49 people.
Tonight, Manatee County Sheriff's deputies are investigating after a man was shot in a Bradenton apartment complex around 3:40 this morning. Deputies responded to a report of gunshots at the Oasis Apartments. Deputies say they found Dontarius Collins inside his car with an apparent gunshot wound. Collins was taken to the hospital where he's being treated, but did not give any information to deputies about the incident. Anyone with information is asked to contact Manatee County Crime Stoppers at 866-634-TIPS.
Now to new developments surrounding the effort to ban greyhound racing here in Florida. A circuit judge has knocked the ban off of the November ballot, calling the proposed constitutional amendment misleading and outright trickeration. The judge sided with a group representing greyhound owners and breeders who argued that the impact of the amendment went far beyond the description that would be given to voters. Now supporters of that proposed amendment say they will appeal that ruling.
All right, Bob is off. Steve is here to talk about the summer weather that goes on and on.
Keeps coming.
It's like every day. It's just another day of summer.
When's the first fall cold front
Right,
coming?
I'm looking forward to fall.
October 23rd. I'll be doing the weather that day.
Okay.
For some of you off on vacation. Don't hold your breath for any relief, but there are some subtle changes going on in the weather, which we'll talk about. Now, looking up the Lakewood Ranch camera, yesterday I was telling you about some dark clouds as we looked east there from that camera. They're not there today because of the subtle change that's been going on in the weather. Winds are blowing from a slightly different direction, changing the rainfall pattern. Currently at our beautiful new Sarasota-Bradenton International Airport Control Tower, 89 degrees is the temperature, dew point 75, humidity 63%. And it is really humid across the state, meaning the current heat index is way up there, the feel-like temperature. Even in Key West, 103 at this hour. Naples, 100. Orlando, 90 degrees. But for across our area yesterday at this time, we're about 100, 101. At 4 o'clock, Sarasota was 103, the feel-like index, so it's getting a little better as we move later on in the day. And as a result of this slight change in the wind flow, you can kind of see it here. Instead of the winds coming due south, look, they're kind of coming from a more southeasterly direction. That's really what we typically have in summer, and it really encourages our sea breeze front to kick in. Excuse me, with the heat of the day developing along the coast, the sea breeze front moves in, creates thunderstorms that go without flow boundaries and send, excuse me, it must be that red tide across the area. You can see we also have some strong thunderstorms up I-75. They've been going on for the last 2 hours. There's been some ponding, but they've been dissipating, been bubbling up into Tampa Bay. And they've been strong storms with a lot of lightning. I think that's the first of 2 rounds of storms we're going to get tonight. Another one coming in around 8 or 9 o'clock. You can see in the wide view that flow still shows a lot of moisture. It's been raining very heavily in the Panhandle for the last couple of days. It's continuing today, but the pattern is slowly changing. I think even they will dry out. It's going to take the stationary front to wash out with high pressure ahead of it. It's warm, moist in advance of it, a little cooler and drier behind it, but that front is just wobbling around, not doing much. Slowly dissipating. I think we'll see a drying trend for the Panhandle as we move into the weekend. Temperatures at this hour, 85, not too bad. It's really not that hot east of the Rockies, 90 at Kansas City, 89 at Denver, but of course 107 Phoenix and a lot of the deserts, and a high fire danger continues out in California. But coming up in a half hour, I'll tell you about changes that are going on out there. We have a fresh blast of Sahara sand blowing off Africa, and it's continuing to suppress hurricane development and tropical storm development in the eastern Atlantic. But there are a couple of tropical waves out there that really don't amount to much. And across the Caribbean, completely clear pretty much, and the Gulf of Mexico, just your garden variety showers and thunderstorms. Now, I have to tell you, Hurricane Hector with 75-mile-an-hour winds will develop into a major hurricane as it heads toward the Hawaiian Islands. We'll look at that in the next couple of days. They're casting a cautious eye in Hawaii toward that storm. We don't have any really severe weather problems in our future. We just have the garden variety afternoon builds up thunderstorms as we experience this time of year on that southeasterly wind flow, and pop up now and then overnight, mainly dry, and then the heat of the day creates that thunderstorm engine once again, day after day after day into early next week. If you can get away from the red tide, which I seem to be suffering from, winds will be southeasterly, becoming westerly in the afternoon to 5 knots, seas 2 feet, a light chop on bay and inland waters, and Manatee Bay beaches are great, 90 degrees, the water temperature there, 87, the air temperature 90 for the high, UV index 11. Here's my forecast for tonight. Look for skies to be variably cloudy with a chance of thunderstorms, increasing about 9, 10 o'clock tonight, 75 the low, and tomorrow, Partly sunny day with a chance of thunderstorms developing again. It's going to feel hot again with a heat index of 101.91, the actual air temperature for the high. And here's your 7-day. That chance of rain continues at 40 to 50% in the early part of next week. Then we may have 1 day of sunny and drier weather, but the pattern returns back to normal on Wednesday and Thursday. That's your weather.
Thank you, Steve. Let's check first alert traffic. We're seeing some backups on the interstate this evening. This is in South Manatee County in the northbound lanes of I-75 between University Parkway up to State Road 70, as well as between 70 and State Road 64, some spots there as well. There is some rain, as we saw earlier in that area, so the southbound lanes, though, looking clear through that section.
Well, coming up, marine animals are suffering the harmful effects of red tide, how it could impact their populations in the future.
And what wildlife experts are asking you to do to keep sea turtles safe while they nest.
The following message is brought to you by Mesobook.com.
People who have been diagnosed with mesothelioma have many questions. How did I get this disease? What are my treatment options? How will this affect my loved ones? You need answers, which is why we offer a free book written by medical professionals who have treated mesothelioma.
Call toll-free at 1-800-777-1366 or go to mesobook.com.
Hey, you.
Yeah, you. Getting that college education? What are you gonna do? Graduate and take some office job? Be like everybody else? Or will you dare do something different? Like, be a teacher. You could be my teacher. You got the skills. The smarts? Yes, you. You could be the teacher I never forget. That'd be cool. Does that corporate job even have recess? What are you gonna make of yourself? What are you gonna make of me?
WWSB ABC7 is an equal opportunity employer, and we're looking for qualified people to join our dynamic team. For a list of current openings and to apply online, visit www.mysuncoast.com/contact/employment. If you're a motivated team player and you want a rewarding career in a fun, fast-paced working environment, WWSB ABC7 could be the perfect fit for you. Check out our list of openings now.
I'm Anne. I'm a scientist.
Recycling takes a team.
Why don't you let me and me help you out?
Everyone plays a part. Don't trash
I love taking stuff apart and building new things out of it.
what could be treasure.
Pal's my most advanced android. This is awesome. You haven't seen anything yet.
Give your cardboard box another life. Recycle.
Planning the right amount of food is hard. The Guestimator makes it easy. Just tell it who's coming and what's for dinner. Then it tells you how much to make. And yes, it even plans for leftovers. Try it at SaveTheFood.com.
Well, Thomas, you've got pre-diabetes. But with more exercise and a change in diet, it can be reversed.
I've tried exercising. It just makes me hungry for bacon.
I love bacon, too. And who really likes to exercise?
Not me.
Me neither.
Nobody. So we're good?
What? Oh, you still have pre-diabetes. Big time.
With the presence of red tide right now in the Gulf, Florida Fish and Wildlife says it's seen more than double the animals impacted. Now scientists fear what this may mean for future populations. Crews with the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission have been working to test the water and track where red tide is going. That way they can respond faster to calls of animals in distress.
We're seeing more than double the number of animals being impacted at this time of the year from the red tide, and we're seeing large loggerhead sea turtles being affected. And that's because this red tide has lasted into the nesting season.
FWC marine turtle biologist Robin Trindell says one of the biggest concerns is how much of an impact this most recent bloom will have on future populations, especially those that are already endangered or threatened.
We're afraid there will be a significant impact to that breeding population of loggerheads. We also have Kemp's Ridley turtles that are being impacted in that area, and that's a highly endangered species. So we are concerned about the potential impact.
And the concern is not just for sea turtles. FWC marine manatee biologist Ron Mezek says they were already seeing a spike in manatee deaths at the start of the year due to colder temperatures.
Our mortality numbers this year are up. It's on pace to be a really high year, and that's due in part to having red tide and a very cold winter.
Red tide affects manatees in two ways.
They inhale it, and people know how that feels if you're down in that area. And that can cause them problems also that can be ingested through foraging on seagrasses.
The good news, thanks to research, if scientists are able to get to an animal suffering from red tide quickly, their chances of survival are good.
Red tide isn't something that is necessarily acute where the animal dies right away when it's exposed. It takes a little time, and so they've done a number of rescues. And once the animals are out of the red tide area, they recover pretty quickly.
Well, due to the high stress of the sea turtle population, wildlife experts are asking you to help minimize their disturbance. Some ways that you can do that include managing your lights, keeping beaches clear for sea turtle nesting, managing your trash, which can bring in predators that may eat turtle eggs, and also calling either Mote Marine or FWC if you see a sea turtle that is in distress. Well, coming up, our team coverage of red tide continues with cleanup efforts to remove dead fish from area beaches. We'll show you what happens to all of those dead fish after they're removed from the beach.
Plus, what you can do to help if you find dead or distressed animals suffering from red tide. Our coverage continues after this.
Reorganizing a space in your home? Save up to 20% on our beautiful light finishes during the California Closet's Shades of White event. Contact us today for a free design consultation. Visit our showroom or online at californiaclosets.com.
When I was growing up, my mom told us, always treat others the way you want to be treated. She did business with companies that shared her values, like Mutual of Omaha. She had a guaranteed whole life insurance policy through United of Omaha Life Insurance Company, a Mutual of Omaha company. When my mother passed away, her United of Omaha policy helped cover her funeral expenses and bills, and they had money on its way to us within 24 hours.
United of Omaha is here to take care of you. When you call the number on your screen, we'll help find the right policy for you. If you're between 45 and 85, you can get coverage up to $25,000 with no medical exam. Call us right now at the number on your screen.
Now I know I'll be taking care of my family, even after I'm gone.
United of Omaha guaranteed whole life insurance. Call or go online now. Be there for their future.
My name is Haley. I have Fragile X syndrome. I work with Chartwells at Einstein's and FAU. I like being up front and interacting with students. The students are very nice and very hungry. Having a job is a big ticket for independence.
Hi, this is Dan Marino. When your business recruits people with disabilities, everybody wins. To find out how, go to disabilitieswork.employflorida.com.
All hands on deck. What's up? I want to point out 3 tips for using the home computer more safely. Point your way.
First, stop. Make sure your software is up to date and that you've password protected your computer's login and Wi-Fi connection.
Next, think before visiting a site, opening attachments, or clicking on links.
Then connect, knowing you're helping make the web safer for you
and for everyone. Make Stop, Think, Connect part of your daily online routine.
Hamilton was adopted from a rescue in 2008. He really likes to be around people. And as soon as I start to make my breakfast, Hamilton is right there. I get out my mat and I'm doing a downward dog and he's underneath. He's quite the pug about town. He gets invited to a lot of parties. He knows he's a pretty big deal. I mean, look at this little face. How could you not love him?
Reorganizing a space in your home? Save up to 20% on our beautiful light finishes during the California Closet's Shades of White event. Contact us today for a free design consultation. Visit our showroom or online at californiaclosets.com.